video team, it's not just there to capture something to make it look good. We're actually there to serve.
You're listening to the Pro Status Podcast.
Welcome back to Pro Status Podcast. I'm Drake.
And Jesse.
And today we have Chad Vegas with us.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Chad Vegas is the live broadcast video director for Bethel Church. He does a lot of freelance video work as well. So today, same thing. We're going to be talking about what it means to be a pro in your industry. But to start things off light, Chad, what is the newest piece of tech that you've purchased?
The iPhone 11 Pro. The camera is just, that wide angle lens is just freaking amazing. It's actually rekindled my love for shooting with my phone. Mm-hmm. Now every chance I get, I'm like, oh, let me take out my phone and try to get a shot of this, see what this looks like. And we're taking a walk on the Sundial Bridge the other day, actually, and started filming and taking stuff, and just it looks phenomenal. The processing behind it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The wide angle is what makes me want to get the 11.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And then, of course, the Pixel 4 said, we don't need a wide angle lens. That's a whole other topic, but I thought that was really funny that they didn't go with the wide angle lens.
I think everybody was pissed on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I think on a nerdy side, like Apple is a hardware, like they fix everything with hardware, mm-hmm. and Google fixes everything with software.
It's true.
That's just the way it is. Two different approaches.
But they said, this is like a whole other topic, but Google said in their thing that a telephoto is more useful, but then they only put a 2x telephoto in the camera. And it's like, well, why not put a 3, 4, or 5 times zoom, in an optical zoom in there?
Mm-hmm, totally.
If you're saying that a telephoto is better, 2x zoom is not that much.
Yeah.
They do have really good digital zoom. Theirs is the best.
Yeah, that's true.
Just to be fair.
So you do a lot of live video broadcast. Mm-hmm. So what would be your go-to camera and lens choice right now?
Oh, that's it. What's the budget?
No, I mean, okay, no budget. What would be your go-to camera and lens choice?
Well, obviously the Red. That lens that we got, the 80 to 200, mm-hmm. just out the bat, it just looks so dreamy. It looks so nice without having any ProMist filter on it or anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the original 70 to 200 by Canon. It's an 80 to 200. It's black. It doesn't have image stabilization.
No.
But it looks different, but it looks so good.
Yeah. The flares that you can get on them are just insane. And to keep it and still have your subject sharp. Yeah. Which is very interesting.
Yeah. That's a great lens.
Yeah. It'd be Red.
And all the Ari guys are just squirming right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Ari?
I mean, Red has the new Red Ranger in the helium and the Gemini sensor. That looks super cool because it adds all of the broadcast and like production outputs and inputs like built into the camera.
Yeah.
And starting at 20 or 25,000 for the Gemini model is actually,
it's a good price.
It's a great price.
Yeah.
For that camera. I would be super interested to actually mess with it. The only thing that I would be curious about with that one is how much heavier it is, because most of the time we use like a Raven or like a Monstro, but it's super compact.
Yeah,
just the camera, the base module, a battery, and a lens.
Right, and that broadcast back module would be...
It's like big. And I know Jared, when we were trying the production module at the last conference, was like, this is way heavier.
Oh, that's funny.
But if it's lighter than an Ursa Mini Pro, it's a win. Like, I remember going from shooting on the Red and then back to the Ursa Mini Pro, and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so heavy.
That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it's the difference of holding that camera for another 20 minutes.
Or more, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, 20 minutes is a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. We used to do the Sony F5s with the Fujinon broadcast ENG lens on it. And that used to be camera 5 on drums.
Oof. Brutal.
So heavy. Oh, gosh.
That's when you have to keep it on your shoulder.
Yeah, with a Teradek on it.
You can't.
And no.
you can't not have a shoulder rig with that type of setup. It's just too heavy, or an easy rig. But
Right. Yeah.
A lot of guys will think, suck it up. But you're doing this for an hour
Oh yeah.
oh,
and you're sometimes doing this 3 or 4 times a day.
Right.
That's
It
a long
kills
time
your
to hold
back.
it. So
Right. Or can you imagine like the worship nights we do at Bethel?
2 hours.
Yeah, 2.5 hours long straight through. Oh, it's brutal.
That's nuts.
hello pockets. Black Magic Pocket.
the
Let's go.
Pocket Cinema. I mean, it is a great little
Yeah.
camera, and the RAW looks really good. They just need to finally get the RAW into Adobe.
Yeah, actually, so I was on a shoot the other day and we were trying to evaluate what we were going to record in, and we realized we didn't have enough media to do ProRes, and realized Blackmagic Raw was actually it was actually smaller than ProRes with the like same comparable quality.
Yeah.
They did
Unreal.
Nathan, one of our camera apps, and he's like our video supervisor for Bethel with me. He did a shoot, I think a few weeks ago, and they did that constant bit rate, or no, the variable bit rate one. And they actually shot on a 128 gig CFast card, and they were able to get almost 8 or 9 hours total shoot, or the day they were able to shoot throughout the day, and they still had room left on the card.
Wow.
Dang.
I was like, dang, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because if you shoot we shot 6K RAW, variable frame rate at 8:1, and that filled up a terabyte in like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you shoot in, that was slowed down, so it's like 60p
Yeah.
transcoded to 24. So of course, it's going to take up more storage. But the 6K is way nice. To be able to have a project in 4K, and then you can like stabilize and zoom and crop and do all this stuff. It's so nice.
Right. Yeah.
So Chad, tell us a little bit about your video background and like what got you into video production.
Yeah. Basically, it just happened by chance. I was actually doing web development for my church and like graphic design and web. And one day they came up to me and they were like, "Hey, we need a video editor. Do you know how to edit video?" I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, typical church stuff, you know. "Okay, you're a video editor now." And so the media director at the time sat me down, showed me some stuff on Final Cut 7.
Wow. Final Cut 7.
I remember Final Cut 7.
I used to edit on Final Cut 7. Jesse refused to edit on Final Cut.
I did for a while, and
What were you on? What were you doing?
Actually, I was between the early version of Adobe Premiere. So it was like
CS3.
It was like either CS1, like the first CS, or version 6.0 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Started editing, and one day they actually needed a live director for a service, and they're like, "You want to try it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So with a small little Panasonic 4-channel switcher. We had 3 cameras, I think, at that time.
Standard definition, SDI.
SDI. Yeah. Sony preview monitors, little old CRT monitors. From there, I just loved it. I didn't do much directing after that. I did a couple, things, and then became more of a editor. And then I used After Effects. That was the only Adobe product I used, was like Photoshop, After Effects. And then I got hired at a production house in Vegas. We started doing like entertainment magazine TV shows, in-house commercials for all the casinos in Las Vegas. Then I went back to the church and became the media director there. Then it wasn't until like a year before I moved up here that I started doing a little more live video directing, and then we moved up to Redding. Yeah.
And then it took you a while to get hired at Bethel, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. I had friends at Bethel that are like friends of the house, so, and when I came up here, I had a couple of interviews with Bethel Media, but nothing panned out. And I was just like, man, what's going on? Like, I really want to work, not just work, but really I just wanted to just be a part of the crew and really run with this crew. Cause it was something that was, the reason why we came up here was for BSSM, so that my wife could go to first year. But also it's just at the time we were doing, Bethel was doing something amazing with their broadcast. It was like no other church. I mean, we still do it today. I don't think there's a lot of churches that really does broadcast the way we do. So I just wanted to be a part of it. And yeah, it took me like a whole year to actually get hired. There's a whole crazy story about that. Super long, so I won't talk about it here, but
it's a good story.
Yeah, it is a good story. Yeah. Which actually, it's funny because it's a story. Like most of the people that live here, that call Bethel home, that transition here from another place, we all have almost the same story. Mm-hmm. And just crazy trials, crazy things, just to plow through and get through. And long story short, a year later, got hired as a camera op. 2 years later, I ended up working my way up to now being in charge of live video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the first time I remember working with Chad was 2017 for Worship U.
Oh yeah, Worship U.
And that was the event that we kind of started to change things, but we brought in all of the on-staff camera ops to like join with our other team for that conference. And that was the first time I remember working with Chad, but he wasn't a director at the time. He was just a camera op and
a lowly camera op.
So would you say, was it, so you said something about like, you just wanted to run with the crew,
right.
Want to be a part. So basically like I'm hearing community, like you saw something happening there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you observe?
Besides style, it was definitely community, especially when I got here, just seeing the aspect of how everything was run, seeing how basically just where I was before, there was never really a lot of community as far as media goes. Mm-hmm. In the church area, I should say. It was always like, hey, we're doing this over here. Oh, okay, that's cool. But we're doing this,
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing this. It was, instead of a friendly competition, it was kind of like more of a ego-driven competition. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so coming up here, I was like, oh, wait, you guys actually work with other churches too? You guys do this and work with other, like, wow, this is like amazing. Like, this is a cool thing that I'd really love to be a part of, And as for Bethel, it was really about technology, friendships, just seeing how the crew interacted with each other.
That's great. It's cool because I was actually on a call and we were talking about something really similar. He's a voice actor, so he's not necessarily directly in our industry, but it was just a friendly meeting just to get to know each other and connect. And one of the things that was really cool is he was talking about how he was so thankful for our conversation and the fact that we had community. And we talked about that, how like most people in the industry, like they'll have relationships, but what they're really doing is they're seeing if like how they can leverage that person to get more work,
right? How
to make money, or how are they going to elevate my status in some way? And one of the things that I think is really cool is, which I know this because I know you, but to be a part of being a pro is like a life of service. Like, are we really serving people? Are we paying attention? Mm-hmm. Right. And like true relationship is like what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And I think people who think to leverage or think everyone's competition in our industry are missing out, because real community is such an amazing source of energy and creativity, speaking to that scarcity mindset, right? Like we live in an abundance. We don't live in lack. Mm. And I just think that was cool. That's something to point out.
No, yeah.
Like and the pro doesn't operate from scarcity.
Yeah. And that's entirely true. I mean, outside, I don't just do stuff for Bethel. I also do freelance stuff. And outside of that too, it's definitely, my heart is to actually bring this community style to the industry, just communication wise. When I get into a place that I'm going to stream at, sometimes I'll work with sometimes I'll work with people that, I've never met before. Mm-hmm. So I'll go in there and just try to serve them as best as I can, even though I'm there to get a job done. They're there to get a job done. Mm-hmm. But if I can go in with like, hey, this is my space, this is what I need, you need to give me my SDI feeds. You need to give me, just, hey, is it possible to do this? Can we do this? Can, just mm-hmm. create that
atmosphere.
Yeah. That atmosphere, because in the industry, it's so cutthroat where everybody's against each other, and it's just gotten to a point, yeah, where a lot of times, it reminds me of a funny story where this guy was dealing with actually a union, which is a whole nother topic, but he was dealing with a union, and he offended one of the main bosses, and the next morning he came in the next morning, and all the tips of all of his lines were cut off.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, oh my gosh, so scrambling just to get a couple of things up just before the show starts, 2-3 hours later, just Dang. Crazy stuff like that. And it's that's what the industry's like, which unfortunately, it has become, I should say, unfortunately. I don't think it ever started that way.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I actually, that is a real thing.
It's very cutthroat, every man for himself.
If you don't do it right, some ding dong will come and cut through your thousands of dollars worth of fiber. And
yeah.
Oh man.
But I mean, I think that's also, that goes off of being pro status, is that you want to go in with the right attitude in mind. You don't want to go in with an ego. You always want to stay humble, stay teachable, because there are times when I know more than their video tech, and their video tech's like, hey, what if I did this and this, and I need this and this, but still staying humble enough to just not be walking all over him, or going over his head to his boss,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sure production managers and the producers of the event, that's huge. It speaks volumes to them.
Well, and as a producer or production manager, you can quickly tell who's pro and who's not when you're working with someone, just by how they handle themselves and their attitude and what they bring to the table. Especially in the non-Christian industry, those guys can be a little worried bringing on, outsiders. How is this going to be? And I've been to a few shows like that where I was the LD, and they brought me in, had no clue how it was going to be. But then you're there, and it's just I'm just here to serve and make this event happen. I'm not super crazy about everything or nitpicking every little thing. It's just all right, it's fine. We can make this show happen. I'm not worried. So you took over, and it's been a year now.
Yeah.
A little over a year. And part of that year, we implemented a huge change.
Yeah.
In our broadcast.
Yeah. Coming into it, when I took over, I was already feeling like we needed to change, and we needed to just revamp our whole style. It was good, and it was at a spot where we're still doing better than most other places, but I really wanted to get it to a place where we could feel, if you're at home, I wanted you to feel like you're inside of the room. When you're in the building, I wanted you to feel like you're on stage, and to get it to that point. And at that time, we actually moved over to Bethel's church production team.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we decided to move Bethel TV, the video production team, over to the local production team of the church, and to merge those two departments together, which has been probably the best decisions I think we've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did, that's when you and I started working together more.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up talking, and Jesse and I knew each other already for a little bit. I thank my wife for that one. That was great. Do you remember that? She met you in translation when she was doing translation. She's
I was why is this French lady speaking proud in my space? And I was okay, I gotta check myself. Don't be that guy.
Yeah. That's funny. So we sat down and talked through it and said, what did we want it to look like? What did we want it to feel like, really?
Mm-hmm.
We ended up coming up to we have three big conferences that are almost back to back in October and November. And we figured this would probably be the best time to actually just totally change it and change our style and just go full on, for lack of a better term, balls to the wall
See what happens.
And see what happens. Exactly.
I think there was a lot of shakedown. Like there's a lot of things that just kind of shook and readjusted into place. And there was this opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like the perfect window too. I don't think that it would have taken longer for us to implement what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I think if we didn't.
It was like an intensive. It was almost like an intensive boot camp for a month. And
it was great too, because it was perfect timing for our camera operators to like really like hone their craft, hone that style.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I know that we really had to, not just with the camera ops, but even with our leadership, like they were on board with us trying something new, which is important, but we had to like open everyone's minds and like break open that box of what broadcast can look like.
Right.
Because the three of us here were so bored with the typical broadcast and just like, why do we keep doing this?
Yeah.
And
why do you keep crossfading on a fast song?
Real talk. I had a dream last night that I think it was Nathan Grubbs, which we should definitely have on the podcast.
Yeah.
But was actually cutting something with crossfades manually. And I was like, what is going on? Anyway,
that's funny. So we kind of just implemented that change, but and it took a little bit.
It did, yeah. And it wasn't, it's not like it just happened overnight. It took a little bit on everybody's part, a lot of dialogue back and forth with senior leadership, and a lot of basically just, hey, coming together, let's watch this, let's look at this. Mm-hmm. Hey, what if you did this? What if you did that? Actually physically pulling the camera out, going up on stage and showing them, no, let's look at this. Let's do this. Let's.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really hard thing to do. And I think a listener would probably want to know, how the heck can I get my leadership to see that? Right. So you're talking to them right now, and this is going to be a hot topic.
Well, one of the things too that not a lot of churches do, we have our broadcast cut, our stream cut. So what goes on the web is also on our IMAX screens.
Yeah.
It's not two separate feeds.
Yeah.
And so every single service in the morning, well, and at night, but every service during worship, our senior leadership team is watching what was going on the stream on the screens in the house. So they get to see it in real time every day.
Yeah. And probably even worse because it's magnified in the room.
Oh yeah.
We have like 20-foot IMAX screens and
so
every little
them,
move
they can see everything.
Huge.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Actually, we've discovered that our screens enhance some issues that the stream covers up.
Yeah,
like some noise issues and things like that. So now we're perfecting it even further that you can't ever really see that on the stream, but we know that it's even more perfected.
Yeah.
So we're still on the journey. So what happened? Like, how did this?
Yeah.
It's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a year. We've actually done a very good job, I think, of being able to find a balance. We do go a little harder during conference times, just a little more active, a little more.
Well, I think it's a response to the room too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a little more active, we're responding to the room more. People there, they come from all over the world and they want that experience. They want to, we want to give them that experience to feel like, hey, you know what, we're here to serve you guys. And I think that's another part of it too. It's like our video team, it's not just there to capture something to make it look good. We're actually there to serve. We're actually there. We're worshiping along with them and worshiping along with the worship leaders.
Yeah. I'd like to hear, we've seen the creative process. We've seen what's been happening over the last year visually. Talk about the team and the culture, like what's happened with individuals and.
Yeah, the thing coming into it for me, especially being at other broadcast places and, coming into it for me, I really wanted to create a culture where everybody felt empowered. In the broadcast industry, a lot of times you don't necessarily feel that because your director is either yelling at you, through the comms or telling you how bad you did on that shot that he just took. Or if they're not doing it, they're not doing it vocally, they're doing it by the way they breathe over the comms, like, or, and sometimes, and a lot of times too, if they don't communicate, it could be just them like, oh, I took the wrong cut when I wanted this, kind of a deal. So coming into it, my goal was to make sure that everybody felt empowered. I didn't want to have any, because I know from my experience, if I'm taking a shot and I'm doing, if I was on the jib and I was panning right or swinging right, and I get taken and I hear, over the comms, immediately I'm just taken out of my worship. Mm-hmm. I'm taken out of what I'm doing. And I just want to try to impress the director. I don't want to having to have something where I'm always encouraging them. I'm always like, yes, that's great. That's not to say I don't give constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. I'll definitely call them out and say, hey, actually do this better, or let's slow it down a little bit. Let's, speed it up. Give me more energy kind of deal. But for the most part, I say 95% of my job or what I'm doing, what I'm directing is really just encouraging them. We're a little different because all of our camera ops have creative. Basically, they're free to be creative. We just give them a little bit of guidelines in a zone, and then they can, get the shots. They practice active listening. They constantly listen to the song as we're in the set, and they're like, oh, hey, violin's happening, but I know this camera is not on violin. That's usually on violin. So I'm going to cover that guy. I'm going to get violin, that kind of a deal.
I saw a great example of that on Sunday where it was only piano and no one was shooting the piano. And one of the ops just turned, and like, it's not his shot, but he just turned and shot the piano. And that's that active listening, paying attention to what's happening.
I know that a big thing is having the MD and the click, and just having the information in comms. It helps the video guys know what's happening and transitions and whatnot. But probably the biggest thing that I've observed is making sure that you're listening to the music.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's been the biggest adjustment for the camera guys is actually listening, actually worshiping.
Being there for sound check, really. Mm-hmm. Because the live versions that we do sometimes don't sound exactly like the way we do it on an album, Mm-hmm. And so being able to come to sound check and actually, they're actually going to take a break here. They're going to do a build on this part instead of this part on the CD, kind of that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you're not actually directing shots, all that stuff is super important.
Yeah.
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 I think if you haven't seen on Bethel Productions YouTube, Jad's posted a lot of his multi-views with the comms in it, so you can see how he directs, and it is a lot different than a typical broadcast. He's not actually giving direction to the ops of what to shoot and when. He's letting them be creative, and they're pros. Like, they know what they're supposed to shoot. They have their zone that they're supposed to be in. Yep. Let them get the shots, and he's just piecing the story together. So it is a lot different, but that goes to, listen to actually what's happening in the room.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to the director telling you what to do. It's a whole nother style.
And practice too. I mean, it's a little different for us because we're pretty much every weekend we're streaming something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the times that we're not, sometimes the camera ops will come in and just practice. They'll figure out a time. Hey, can we come in and just do, some movements, try some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So they're constantly, for them, they're constantly trying to get better at their craft, trying to, improve on certain things.
Mm-hmm. And we'd like to challenge them too, which I think is a good thing. Like, for example, on drums, we bought a lens and we're like, all right, this is the drum lens. And some of them are like, what am I supposed to do with this lens on drums?
Exactly.
But it's that challenge of like, there is plenty of shots that you can get right here. Now we get to figure them out. And Chad and I will always work with them too. And Jesse as well, actually, we'll like work with them and show them exactly like what we're looking for.
Oh, absolutely. I think too, to mention, directors get a lot of the attention, but you're really only as good as your camera guys. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
If you don't have that culture and you're not establishing a culture that empowers people,
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want mediocre coverage, I mean, treat them mediocre. If you're actually going to care about your team and like draw out of them like a true leader, right? I mean, that's the difference. It's like a director doesn't need to be a butthole; he needs to be a leader,
right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I'd go even further on that, not just a leader, but also a father.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I approach my leadership more like as a father, where I'm going to allow you to be creative or allow you to do something, even though I may not think that it's possible. but I'm still going to allow you to do it. And if it fails, it fails. And we can come back to the drawing board and figure out, hey, where did it fail? Okay, can we actually make it better? Or can we still do it by changing this? Or, or if it's successful, then that's awesome. I'm still a proud dad that's actually celebrating the win,
Yeah.
And I think that comes down really from our leadership too. I think that's one of the main reasons we were able to do it and to change our style very quickly was because the leadership trusted us enough, like a father, and said, okay, let's try it. Why not?
And I think this works too. Like, even if you're not working in a church, you're working in a secular venue or, you're just a road guy, but the same rules apply.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just because we're in a church environment that it's different. I think that's one of the great things that we're trying to do as well. It's like, this can be multiplied or copied in any area, any aspect, this way of leading, this way of directing.
Absolutely.
And it's also really personal. I mean, it's true in every aspect of your life. Like, we are directing, but you're encouraging people to be confident in their work, but it's an attitude and a stance that applies to life.
Right. Yeah.
And you've done a really good job of getting to know your team and actually having those one-on-ones and connecting with them. And I think that's a big deal they're not just employees that show up and work.
Right. Yeah.
When they need to.
Yeah. I want, you want to build that community, really, that having everybody know each other and know, I think a lot of it too is, I think I saw it during the conference, our youth conference this past week, where they all know their zones, but they also know, like, this person is actually better for this, and we still want to do the best. We still want to output, for lack of a better word, the great product. Right.
Yeah.
So they know, like, hey, Ashley, can we put, Jaden on drums, for instance, because we know that she's going to kill it on drums, especially because we did something different for the youth conference. And usually there's a lot of places for us to move around drums. We can do wraparounds, run ups, all this stuff. But there wasn't, because it was on a riser this time, there wasn't a lot to do. And so they're like, probably the best person, one of the other camera ops that we had was like, can we put Jaden? Let's swap. I was like, yeah, sure. That's fine. Because they knew that she would be able to get the shots that was, required.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's honor right there. That's awesome.
Well, I think, especially when you work together a lot, which our team does, yes, we want to push everyone to be as good as they can in every single position that they are working in, but also it's that respect and honor of knowing, hey, that person's actually better than me in this situation.
Yeah, totally.
So transitioning here, Pro Status, the name, actually kind of started in this department.
Oh yeah, we should probably end on this song.
With Chad and Jesse and Eli, I think.
Yeah. We do a Worship U online on campus, and it's a 2-week school where it's pretty much we're streaming every day for 2 weeks straight. Every day and Sunday. We usually have to get there usually by 7 a.m. every morning. And Eli ended up getting there before Jesse, because it's always usually Jesse or myself or Drake will always get there a little earlier than call time. And Jesse got there late, and Eli put up a story that said, basically, like, I beat Jesse like a pro status. He hashtag pro status. and so it started off the next morning. I actually got there earlier before everybody. And so I did a little
5 in the morning.
Yeah. I couldn't sleep that night. Oh no, I slept fairly well. It was just, I just got up early and couldn't go back to sleep. I was like, well, I got stuff to do. I'm going to go in. And so when I was there, I just decided to do something and tag Eli and Jesse. I'm like, I'm here earlier than you guys, so this is mine, hashtag pro status. And it just took off from there. That whole week, we were just posting Insta stories of us doing.
It's true, yeah. I think originally I would make fun of them for taking bathroom breaks when they're on camera.
Oh, yes, that's
true. A real pro can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just every time they would say just have some silly need that I was just like, come on, guys, suck it up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're a
Pro doesn't need that.
Yeah.
And so definitely there was a little bit of that tension there, or
That's
on
funny.
purpose. It was fun.
That's great.
And
Well-
that was the event that actually secured it. And it became
It became
hashtag
something. Yeah.
pro status.
And now to even like the other day, I was working on another production and thought I had dumped all the cards and I was missing an audio file. And so I texted the group and the sound engineer was like, actually, I think I have a backup of that. Not his job to dump his card. Like that's definitely my job.
Mhm.
And I missed it. And he's like, I have a backup of that, and went and found it. And so in the text thread, he was like, pro status, you know,
Nice.
and it's just like that. Those extra
That was
little
great.
things. It wasn't his
Yeah.
job to do that, but he did it
But he
as
did it because he's a pro.
because he's a pro
Yeah.
and he knows things can go wrong, which happened. And then we weren't having to edit an MP3 file or reshoot. We
Right.
had the original wave to be able to mix.
Yeah.
So that's that. So I think we can wrap up with a couple like rapid fire questions from the
Oh,
questions that we've
okay.
like collected. There's
All
a
right.
few. There's some good ones because one of these I think is really good and it goes into the pro status thing a lot. But what do you do to prepare for a service that makes production invisible? Example, like seamless transitions, those kinds of things. So what are like some preparation tips that you do?
Listen to the set list prior. So we do this a lot for the Bethel Music Conferences. We'll give out a camera plot and their positions to each op. We'll also give them the set lists on Spotify of what songs are going to be there. If there's any new songs that aren't on an album yet, we'll upload it and send it out to them so they can listen. They can know like, oh, this is how the song sounds, things like that. They picture in their mind, imagine themselves actually in the venue, how they're opping, how they're, you know, getting their shots. When we're there and we got cams up, everything's already set up. They'll go out during sound check and not just listen, sit down and listen. A lot of times they'll actually, hey, let's pick up the camera. Let's try our movement here. Let's look at this. What does this look like?
Mm-hmm. And even in that, Chad and I will make changes based like from the original document, which I think
Yeah.
is important because I'll send something out
Right.
and then we're there and we're like, this actually isn't
Yeah.
as good as we thought it was going to
I
be.
think, yeah, and being adaptable too. That's part of
Absolutely.
a big thing about being a pro, you know, being pro status, right? Is the ability to adapt to
on the fly.
on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there is definitely things that are going to happen that you're like, oh, you know, this doesn't work. Let's try this. And a lot of people don't know, but we do change a lot from one worship night to the other just because we didn't like the way it looked. So the next morning it totally changes. Sometimes we basically move the whole crew around. Actually, you're going to be on camera 4 now. You're going to be in camera 2, you know?
Mm-hmm. The last Heaven Come conference, we added a camera.
Mhm.
Like second day, we're like, we don't have enough coverage.
Yeah.
We're going to do what we have to add a camera.
Yeah.
Next question. What is the best platform to live stream? And I know this is a
Ooh.
big question, but
know.
you
Can't
guys are
even answer that.
really nerdy about this, but there's a lot of options out there.
I actually still enjoy Wowza.
Wowza.
I do. Yeah, it's a really
I
good
can nerd out on this.
CDN.
Isn't that the only way to get stereo on Facebook, or is that fixed?
No,
No, it's fixed now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was the
It
only
was
way
the only way.
to stream
Yeah.
your audio and stereo on
I do.
Facebook.
I like it. I guess because they're cloud. It's an easier cloud platform. The things they can do in the cloud is a lot better than right now. I think Vimeo Livestream, because they bought out Livestream, they're still trying to figure out like, hey, how do we best merge these two entities together?
I know Jesse loves Vimeo.
I know it's nice too. I do. I mean, for the most part, I still 90% of the time on my freelance stuff.
I mean,
I'm
hey,
using
this
Vimeo.
isn't my podcast episode, but I definitely have an opinion.
Well, I knew you would. I mean, we could talk about
Oh, I
live
could
stream
go on
forever. Okay, live video inspiration. Like,
Ooh.
where do you get your inspiration from?
There's a lot of places, other churches. Definitely look into other churches, even smaller churches. Sometimes they'll be doing stuff that are very creative. We'll go and use that sometimes, you know, be like, hey, this church did that. Let's try it.
Mhm.
See how it works for us. But I also, a guy by the name of Hamish Hamilton. He's got a couple of videos on YouTube. He did U2, the tour back in the day, and he is very energetic. Language is not safe for work, that one. But he did that. He did, I think, Super Bowl 50, the halftime show. And he's done a bunch of, he's from the UK, so he's done tons of live stuff in the UK.
And that's why he swears.
Yeah, that's why he swears. Yeah. Those English. Hamish Hamilton. He's done like, I think the Oscars and stuff. It's more like traditional broadcast stuff, but I really like the way he encourages his crew, how he talks to his crew and stuff. And really, especially with the U2 one, like that, for me, that was like, man, I really want to be like this in the control room. Like I really want to empower these camera ops and really just, have fun with them.
We'll link that in the show notes.
Oh, for sure. Okay. This is the question that we get all the time. So we'll land on this question. What cameras and switcher do you use regularly? All Blackmagic. We use Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pros, Ursa Broadcast, and Pocket Cinema 4K and 6K. As far as switchers, we actually go between two different ones depending on if we're in the fly pack and traveling or not. It'll be either the production ATEM 4K or the broadcast ATEM. Sweet.
Do you love it?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I would prefer something where I can get more customizable multi-view.
Yeah.
So that would be, if they did a fully customizable multi-view like Ross does or Grass Valley, like all of them, then that would be like a game changer. Like if they ever did that,
that would be
insane.
Well, can't you create? It's probably not the same though. I think in the new Blackmagic, the 8K switcher, you can create a multi-view, but if I'm not mistaken, it's like their other multi-viewers, which always in grids.
It's always in grids.
You can't move things around. Like I've used the Decimator multi-viewers before, and then I can custom make every square and put it wherever I want to, which is what we're looking for. So if they can get rid of the grid thing and just let us put the windows where we want to, that would be amazing.
That would be true. That would be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I can go back and forth on all that because I think what you gain is quality of preview.
True.
So a lot of the ones that you drag and drop, you sacrifice image quality and clarity.
I have seen that.
So
yeah, that's true.
The Blackmagic multi-viewers do look super clear. That multi-view 16,
yeah, it's really nice.
Very sharp. It looks super nice.
Cool. Well.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Chad, for being here. If you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll link some of the references that Chad did as well as his multi-views in the show notes so you can actually go watch and see what we're talking about. Yeah, and if you guys have questions or things that you want us to talk about, please comment them because we are actually gathering that information and we'll definitely put that in our shows. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Pro Status Podcast. Be sure to go to the website and download all the episode details.